My name is Rich Risto, and I am a stranger in a strange land. And today, I am in Tianning District, Changzhou, near this semi-used shopping center. This would be near the Chashan train station on line 1 of the Changzhou Metro. And as I'm like to do sometimes, I've always been a public sculpture nerd, and this thing here has always been here. As I said, I've lived in Changzhou pretty much 7.5 years. Came here in February 2014, and this is one of the first bits of weirdness I've ever noticed in Changzhou. Alright, so the statue that we're looking at, this up here, with the sun behind it, you can't really, let me get a better angle. So you got a fish, baby, dude holding a woman, stretching to the heavens. Now, of course you have the Chinese explanation, but this part of China usually is bilingual. Okay, Pandora was angry because her sons were sealed by Zeus in Pandora's box, and so she opened the box, you really see them. Blah, 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 blah. Greek mythology, Pandora's box. Once you open it, chaos ensues. Now, the thing is, you kind of wonder when it comes to these sort of sites, and later, you know, we're going to go walking around that housing estate over there. But why would this random, what seems random in China, European myth, in a shopping area, which, by the way, 7 years ago, there were mostly pet shops here, and the area reeked of cat urine, if I'm going to be frank with you. But now, you know, Tianyu mathematics, first class EDU, education. You know, typically, a lot of times, things that were originally meant to be swanky shopping centers, turns out to be repurposed for training centers. I mean, so yeah. But I'm going to take a walk around here for a bit and see what... Well, not altogether training centers. That is Liang T, which is... Liang is a county-level city of Changzhou to the south, famous for tea, fish head soup, and other things. So we say semi-abandoned or not as much used shopping center. First indication here is, I can't totally read the Chinese here, but I can tell you pretty much what it's saying. Elevator doesn't work, go 50 meters this way. Okay, so we are approximately 50 meters from the previous elevator. This one looks like it works. Now, I did say about 7 years ago, this place was filled with like pet stores, and the area did smell like cat pee. On the second level here, and here we have dude cats, locked and abandoned. This thing here in China is what we call D-lock. A lot of the doors don't have... A lot of doors are manufactured where they don't have internal locks, and you use a D-lock to lock from the outside. And as you can see, this is the second floor of you know, the non-working elevator that I mentioned earlier. But you know, again, this place is semi-abandoned, and yes, used to really sort of reek of cat urine and spray and dander and what have you, specifically on this floor and this particular row of abandoned shops within this shopping center. So what exactly is this place? In Tianning, near the bridge actually to Wujin. So here we have Peace International Commercial Plaza. And on this side of this pillar column, we have European City of Culture and Art. Now, think back in that area. Besides Pandora's box being referenced here, what is exactly European in terms of culture and art in this shopping center? Not a whole lot. Plus, if you look at these buildings here, the architecture is cookie cutter. And just so you know, not all this is in English. It's just funny that the Chinese language side of this, which is He Pingguo Ji Shang Ya Jie, which actually Peace International Fashion Street is what the Chinese says. But kind of interesting that the Chinese facing part of this pillar is blocked off from the busy road by trees. Now, if you look at the architecture here, this really does not per se look European, especially once you factor in the mass reproduced architecture of Chinese high-rises that you quite often see in this end of China, which, as I've said many times before, is Jingnan, south of, which is basically south of the Yangtze River. So if you look here, these buildings are like kudzu in the American South, or just kind of like weeds. They sprout up on an urban landscape seemingly overnight, which, you know, is maybe like about 6 months. But if you look at this and you look at this over here, and you consider that pillar that I was considering back then, there's nothing really European that jumps out here. But let's dig a little further. Well, here I am back where I started, just across the street, and so the Pandora statue obviously looks a little bit smaller. But now I'm going to go into the housing estate, which is, this is in Chinese, He Pingguo Ji, according to the map, which is Peace International. So let's go in there and see what's going on. Okay, here we have a half-naked dude with a horse, along with another half-naked dude of a horse. Now, the public signage, which is thankfully bilingual, says that this is dedicated to Apollo, the Greek god. Well, that's not Apollo. That's not Apollo. I'm assuming that guy off in the distance. Maybe so. Let's take a further look. Well, last I checked, Apollo was a guy. And here we have a clear case of a woman with breasts and protective armor over said breasts. According to the signage over there, this is actually meant to be Athena. So, dude with the horses, no Apollo, but here's Athena. Now, the other thing is, if you take a look at these angelic figures up here, they remind more of like the angelic hierarchies that you see in Judeo-Christian mythology, which is now actively being mixed with a monotheistic one, with Athena holding her spear and an icon of a woman with no arms. So, the thing is, themed housing estates in China really are not anything new, but sometimes they can come off as a mishmash. So just imagine if you had a housing estate in a city of 4.5 million people in America, and it was Asian themed, and it just had this sort of smattering, clustering of stuff that really does not make sense. It's like, it's almost, you know, the use of foreign culture, whether it's in the West, and we do it, and we especially do it with Chinese language tattoos, but whether it's in the West or in the East, people do culturally approximate things just more to be stylish rather than actually making meaningful metaphors of things. Now, to be fair, I have written about this place before in my blog, but I've never actually walked around here with a camera. And so, oh, by the way, fountains such as this, they're built in these housing estates, and more often than not, they are never used. But seems like there's a Greekish sort of statue on top of that blue mosaic wall. I'm gonna go take a closer look at that. There is no clever signage for this. All we can assume is that this is a discus thrower. If this housing estate is supposed to have a European theme, obviously maybe this is a reference to the ancient Olympics in Greece. But let's take a look over here where there is a dog barking at me, and I have to step carefully because these wooden walkways have been weathered fairly badly and have actually fallen through on one or two occasions. So you know what? The fountain is empty. I'm just gonna jump down here and a little bit more safely walk around. That's the dog that's barking at me, but anyway. So here we have nothing shaped just European style statues. Now I've seen this particular one all over China, completely naked, even down to certain body parts, but I've seen this particular statue all over China, so these things are probably mass produced for public decor. In fact, I can think of maybe one or two other places in Changzhou, also in Liang, where you have statues such as this. And actually, you know what? We just looked at that one there, and she has a twin right here. So, again, you know, also the funny thing is, you know, this statue has no modesty. But we have this little cherubic guy, like blowing on a horn here, and he's got a fig leaf. She doesn't. And his pal over here, also with the fig leaf. All right, let me get out of this fountain. All right, I am a 46-year-old man who's admittedly overweight. I am not going to practice my non-existent parkour abilities getting across these gaps. In fact, there's a staircase over here. And the dog is still barking at me. Again, as I said, like a lot of these statues are not commissioned, they are mass produced. We have more cherubic sort of kids with fig leaves, with blowing on horns, with a fountain that has not been used in years. One can easily accuse me of snark. Fair enough. You know, again, with these sketchy wooden bridges, fountains that have been engineered for use but never actually really used. But the thing is, the good thing about housing estates in China even with their sketchy wooden walkways here, is that they are pleasant places to walk around. I mean, I live in a housing estate in Xinbei, which is like 10 kilometers north of here, and I quite often like to go for walks around my housing estate. So yeah, I mean, let's face it, lots of people live here, but within these sort of towering residential blocks, you know, even if you have fountains that were made to look really, really nice with water in them that are just never used, but at least the green spaces here are maintained. And if you want to go out for a healthy walk, like I'm doing now, except for with a camera, you can. And so that's the upside. And I guess maybe the sort of cultural appropriation and convolution here, that's, I guess, the entertainment value. At least when you learn to accept that you live in China, and that there are just fundamentally weird things to be seen in this country at times. Alright, so this is the south gate of Peace International. There is no marker here of what this is supposed to be, so I'm just gonna take a close-up. That looks like a merman, I guess, wrangling a horse. That's like a merman wrangling a horse while blowing on a conch shell. No. Seahorse with wings. I misspoke. I did not see the wings here, which obviously makes this dude possibly Poseidon, or, you know, Neptune if you're going by Roman mythology. Alright, let me get out of this fountain because guard gate right there. And normally what they call Bao An, which is security guard, normally they don't care so long as you're not being shady, but you never know. Walking around with a camera, talking to yourself, could be construed as kind of shady. Well, this dude has seen better days. I really hope I'm not stepping in any dog poo, because housing estates are one of the few places where people can walk their dogs without getting yelled at by Chinese authorities. Anyway, back to this violin player. Obviously, gold paint flaking off of him. But who is this guy supposed to be? Classical music guy, Strauss. So this is Strauss. Interesting. Well, interesting in that, again, these places in China, again, seem to be random mishmashes. Okay, last stop of the day, and I will leave Peace International, or Heping Guoji, not go. Anyway, I get the pinyin wrong all the time. Chinese can be a difficult language. Okay, so the statue of Strauss that I just looked at, that's where my camera is currently pointing. Today, I'm going to end on one last statue and then leave this housing development altogether. So I want to end on this statue right here. Now, keep in mind, as I said before, and I may have pointed out other housing estate walkarounds, you know, it's very, very common to have built a fountain and then not particularly ever use it. So, what's up with this dude? Here you have a little boy holding his anatomical male part. And if this fountain was working, water would be coming from, do the math. Now, to anybody who wants to claim that this is obscene, this is public art, and this isn't just Chinese weirdness. This is actually a culturally famous reference No, this is a reference to a culturally famous statue and fountain in Brussels, which would be Mannekin Pis, which on the Chinese signage, I don't know if it's blurring it out, but that would be there. I'm not going to bother reading the story because what I know of the story and what's on the Chinese marker isn't actually accurate. And so anyway, yeah, well, anyway, the point is, sometimes China is an incoherent ball of weirdness. Now, you can just sort of pull your hair out trying to figure out what the puzzle or what the purpose of all of this is, or you can just do what I do, which is commonly shrug my shoulders and go, yeah, no, this is China. What am I going to do? Just work, live, go about my life. And in a way, I enjoy the sort of nonsensical randomness of this stuff sometimes. At any rate, thank you for watching. And if you like to travel like I do, until next time, safe travels.